Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me is Nigel Seeley to look ahead to this week's action. We've got a 500 in Washington, DC and a 250 in Prague, both on hard court. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider, and follow us on social media. The handle is @BecauseWeWin. And if you like what you hear on our show, sign up for our newsletter. Get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. Nigel, with a bit more quality this week in Washington, DC. No Swiatek, Sabalenka or Goff. They're all preparing for the 1000 in Montreal, which starts next Sunday. Jessica Pegula is there, as is 45-year-old Venus Williams, who has a wild card into the main draw. How are you doing? And are you looking forward to this one, Nigel?
Good morning to you, Rory. Yeah, do you know what? I'm just getting frustrated before we go into this week. So I'm getting frustrated to keep hitting the crossbar on some of these winning tips. I mean, before we go, I mean, we're very honest on this channel. We put up our P&L, and obviously we're not having a very good season on the WTA, but we have to give outright tips. We don't give any match bets tips. And if you looked at our match bets and our prop bets that we've given on the majors, we're actually in profit on those. And we're just, if you're betting in things at 25 to 1 and 33 to 1, you just want something to go your way. I think we've had players in the last 5 or 6 weeks, certainly, outside the majors, that have shortened in price dramatically from when we picked them up. And they're actually been tournament favourites heading into their semi-finals, and they just haven't got to the final. When you're betting someone each way at 50 to 1, Samsonova a couple of weeks ago, and she's minus 200 to get to the final, doesn't get there. And then you have Jacqueline Christian last week at plus 550, who's trading down at plus 250. We read it right with the Romanian players, and she gets beaten in the semi-final when she was 4-1 up as well in the set as well. It's a bit demoralising, really, but I suppose you've got to look at it and think we're getting runs for our money on some of them. Obviously, Wimbledon, we didn't do so well, but we're getting good runs for our money, and hopefully we've got to get one over the line. So I've seen a lot of people sort of posting stuff and saying, it's a bad record, but when you look at it, it does look a bad record, and it is a bad run we're having. But when you break them down, when you're doing outright selections, we've got a long way to go. If we can get one of them into the final, one of them win it, then we eradicate that loss very, very quickly. We're just not getting the rub of the green. And it's whether you think they're bad bets or good bets. So I think if you're betting something at plus 550 that's plus 125, you've got a good bet. If you bet someone at 50 to 1 who's down to 5 to 1, you've got a good bet. And it's just, at the moment, we just can't get them home. So I'm very, very, very frustrated at the moment on the WTA show, as you can probably tell. But I still think we're doing the right things, and I believe that the winners will come.
I hope so. I mean, yeah, we're finding value. I mean, we can't do much more than that. But yes, it would be nice to get one over the line, as you say. Maybe we can do it this week. We're in Washington, DC. It's the City DC Open. Yep. It's a 32-player event. Top 4 seeds have got buys. They are Jess Pegula, Emma Navarro, Jelena Rybakina and Clara Towson. Last year, Paula Badosa beat Marie Balskova in the final, but the Spaniards had a recurrence of her back injury, so she's not playing this year. Actually, in last year's semi-finals, Balskova put out Sabalenka, the world number one, the now world number one in the semi-finals. 2023 was the first time Washington was a 500 and Coco Gauff defeated Maria Sakkari in the final. And in 2022, Lyudmila Samsonova got the better in Kaya Kanepi. That was the first official tournament in DC since the pandemic. Last year, conditions were quick. Service hole percentage is 70.3. They were much slower the year before, 65.5 service hold percentage. The surface is called Hartrue. And interestingly, Cincinnati, known as one of the quickest courts on the tour, that's been on green set. It's switching to Hartrue this year. So this should be quite instructive as far as Cincinnati's concerned. Weather could be a factor this week. It's pretty warm during the week, around 30 Celsius, so that's high 80s Fahrenheit. And then we've got a heat wave coming Friday, Saturday, temperatures hitting 100 Fahrenheit. That's 38 degrees Celsius. I mean, breaking that all down, Nigel, court speed has been variable. The heat may well make things quick. But what do you think generally about the tournament?
I think this is going to be one of the toughest conditions for the players this calendar season. The humidity is extremely high as well. We're very fortunate. We have a couple of people who work in Bet Rivers. Our main governor, Terry, is out in Washington as well, and he says it's really, really hot, and the conditions that these players are going to find themselves, they've got to be fit and they've got to be at their A game to win this tournament. If anyone's got any niggling doubts or injuries, they're going to be found out in these conditions. It's going to be absolutely boiling hot. I think, we saw the shocks that were happening at Wimbledon in round one and the seeds falling all over the place in the heat conditions. Well, it's going to be hotter and more humid here than it was at Wimbledon. So there's a lot of injury concerns surrounding about a lot of players in this draw, which is going to be coming into it. I think it's going to be the survival of the fittest, and you're going to have a look to players who are going to be right at it, who can cope with the conditions. So I think that rules out a few of these players because there's a few coming in with question marks. Before we go into the draw and break down who I think potentially could be, I'll give you some interesting stats on this tournament. There's been 12 finals here at Washington, 12 tournaments since the tournament started on the WTA show. No number one seed has ever won the tournament, which is quite interesting. And the last number one seed to reach the final was Pavlyuchenkova back in 2012. So number one seeds have a really, really bad record here. In 12 of the finals, 9 unseeded players have made it to the final. So you might have to look further down. That could potentially be to do with the conditions, that it's hot, that, a lot of people, there may be some shock results due to the heat and the humidity, as we saw at Wimbledon this year. First round, second round was one of the biggest shocks of the season, or Wimbledon's from past in men's and women's, with all the seeds falling. That may have something to do with it. An unseeded player has won this tournament in 6 of the last 12 years. And for homegrown players, only 3 US winners have won this event. Goff, as you said, Jessica Pegula, and Sloane Stephens back in 2015. So American players have won 3 of 12 in their nation's capital. Looking at the runners and riders, there are players with injury concerns, and there are players that I feel that could come in with a little bit of incentive, and players that I like in these conditions. But they are the stats, they are the trends. Number one seed is a fade, and number one seed this week is Jessica Pegula.
Yeah, and she has something to prove after her very early exit at Wimbledon. If the quarterfinals go according to the seedings, Pegula will play Sofia Kenin. Jelena Rybakina will face Magdalena Frech. Magdalenette, she'll play Clara Towson. And Marta Kostyuk will meet number 2 seed Emma Navarro. The dangers, you've got Maya Joint in Q1. She has 2 tour titles this season in Rabat and Eastbourne, as is Hayley Baptiste, who's the local favourite. She's from Washington, D.C. Venus Williams plays Peyton Stearns first up in Q2. Talented Canadian youngster Victoria Mboko's there, 2 as another wild card. In Q3, Lynette plays Danielle Collins first up, and also you've got Anna Kalinskaya and McCartney Kessler. And in Q4, there's Emma Raducanu, Naomi Osaka, and in round 1, you've got Maria Sakkari playing Katie Boulter. So it might not have many of the very top players, but there's a lot of depth here, Nigel. Any draw bias that you can pick out?
I think the bottom half of the draw is a little bit easier than the top half of the draw, only marginal. Only because I think that Pegula and Rybakina are obviously bigger names, but I think they're both fades this week, actually, Pegula and Rybakina. So I think the bottom half of the draw is probably slightly a little bit easier. There's dangerous floaters, as you say, and there's dangerous quarter. I mean, Q4 is very difficult. Kostyuk, Raducanu, Osaka, Sakkari's done well here, Bolton, Navarro. It's a very, very tough quarter. But I think as a raw, I would say that Q3 is probably the easiest quarter. Q1 looks difficult. Pegula, Joint, Fernandez, obviously a former US Open finalist. Kenin, Grand Slam champion. That's a tough quarter there. Baptiste is the local player as well. So I would say the bottom half of the draw is slightly easier, on probably more on reputation rather than current form. I think the top half of the players, Pegula and Rybakina, are their reputation and what they've proven to do. But at this moment in time, Rybakina is not the kind of player that you would want to be back in the short price odds she is at the moment, given her lack of form and her performances at Wimbledon. But yeah, I would say the bottom half is slightly easier.
Let's have a look at the outright odds. And as we mentioned, the top 2 in the betting are in the top half of the draw. So only one of them can reach the final. Rybakina $3. Pegula plus 450. Clara Towson and Emma Navarro both $8. Naomi Osaka $9. Emma Raducanu $10. And then it's Danielle Collins and Marta Kostyuk both 16s. McCartney Kessler $18. Maya Joint $20. And it's $25 bar those. What are you thinking? I mean, part of me wants to avoid the top half simply because Rebecca and Pegula are there. And although, as you say, they are both fades, I mean, I do have a bet in the top half. And the bottom half, I was looking at Towson, but what you've said about the conditions, you know, this very high humidity, she always seems to have sort of illness, injury issues, and maybe the heat would find her out. What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought that's exactly my way of thinking here. I mean, Jessica Pegula obviously has got to bounce back from that shock defeat at Wimbledon. The number one seed fade is something that worries me. We know that she's got the capability to win these tournaments, but I just got a feeling that at the price, I wouldn't want to. I'm not interested at plus 450. Rybakina is always a worry of a body breakdown. I think the first week of Wimbledon, she was the player that I thought, you know what, she can go. She's the statement player here. She's looking really good here, and she's back to her best. And it went terribly wrong. And when she played against Towson, Towson hit her. And I would suggest that Rybakina, in these hot conditions, I don't think the way that her body goes, I think at 3-1, she's a very, very short price, and I would be very worried about her. Towson was clearly injured against Swiatek at Wimbledon. She had an injury problem there. So what is her fitness? I don't know. Emma Navarro shows glimpses that she's up to something and looking good, and then all of a sudden her serve goes and she falls to pieces. I can't have Naomi Osaka at this stage of her career, at her age, in these conditions. Emma Raducanu, another one full of injuries, absolutely full of injuries. Daniela Collins, again at her age, I wouldn't take her. And Marta Kostyuk opens up against Emma Raducanu, so that's ruled out every single one of the top 8 in the betting. But that's how I feel here. I think you've got to look with someone who's playing their best sort of tennis, who looks at this event and thinks it's an event I really want to go deep in for various reasons. Someone who will thrive in the conditions, and someone who has got a favourable draw. And that person for me this week is McCartney Kessler at 18-1, the unseeded player. Unseeded doesn't worry me in this tournament. As I said, 6 of the 12 people who've won it have been unseeded, 9 unseeded finalists in the 12. She's in the weakest quarter as far as I can see. Magdalene is the 8th seed. Danielle Collins against her in round 1. She's got a qualifier in round 1. We don't know who that is, obviously, but she's going to be a decent favourite. Then she'll run into Clara Towson, who I don't think is fit. And I think whoever wins that match has got a great chance to get to the final. And I'm taking Kessler to do it. There's a couple of reasons why. She's in good form, McCartney Kessler. Obviously, she won the tournament in Nottingham on the grass, beating a few players who were in this tournament here. Then she had that curse, like the Pegula curse. So she's won the tournament and she ran into Von Drusefer in round 1 and Wimbledon got beaten. Now, that's not a bad feat, really, losing to Von Drusefer. She was very unlucky with the draw. But she was in good form with the win in Nottingham. She's had a bit of time to recover. Her hard court form this season is exceptional. She's won 17 and 8 late losses. She got to the final of Austin, which is a similar kind of tournament to this. She's lost, if you look at the people she's lost to Sabalenka in Indian Wells. She lost to Mukova in Dubai. She beat Goff and Anisimova in Dubai, so she's got the capabilities to do that. She beat Ashton Kruger in Abu Dhabi, good player. She won the hard court tournament in Hobart, beating again players that you would that kind of level of this tournament. So she's got some real good hard court credentials this week. She's from Georgia, so the temperatures here will probably be pretty much what she grew up to. Hot, humid summers, hot weather, high humidity, which is what she's going to face today. So the conditions won't be too much of a problem for her compared to other people. And the other thing I like about her, I think that where she is positioned in the world, she really want to go here. She's number 31 in the world. And she's only a few ranking points behind some other players who have got good opportunities to go deep in other tournaments this week. And a good run is essential for her to head into the US Open and potentially the 1000 events as a seeded player. And I think that's a big incentive for her. So I'm going to go for McCartney Kessler. Easy draw, good form, solid hard court form. One final, one win, one final already in a similar kind of conditions. A lot of these players have got injury doubts, questions about the humidity and the weather. No problem for her. And I think at 18-1, the fact that she'll want a good run to make sure she can put herself in a best position possible to be seeded for the Open. I'm going to go with Kessler 18-1, 1 point each way.
So there you go. I see the bottom half. I was thinking Navarro, just because I know she's going to perform in these conditions. But Kessler looks a good alternative. And so I'm going to go to the top half. And I've mentioned her already. I mentioned her in Wimbledon as Hailey Baptiste. Now, she made her main draw debut on the WTA Tour back in 2019 here in Washington, D.C. As I say, it's her hometown. And she beat Madison Keys, which was no mean feat. She defeated Karolina Pliskova a couple of years back. Sofia Kenin first up isn't an easy draw, but she likes to attack. These conditions should be quick given the weather. She did struggle a bit on grass, probably due to lack of experience as much as anything. But back on her favoured hard courts, I think she could go deep here. Obviously, she'd have lots of home support. She's got a big incentive to go well. And she's $50, which I think is just a bit too big. I mean, she does have a tough draw. You're probably looking at Rybakina or Pegula perhaps to fall early, but given the form they're in, that is possible.
I slightly worry about her conditioning though. She's quite a big girl, and
yeah,
this is going to be very, very, very hot. I know she's been brought up on it, but I think this is going to come down to the survival of the fittest here with this weather conditions. You've got back-to-back matches. You're going to have to be proper at it.
Yeah, I think given her style of play though, I think she might be able to keep the rallies quite short because she does hit the ball hard. So I don't see her getting into too many long rallies, which is what's going to sap the stamina. Say Sofia Kenin first up isn't ideal, but at $50, I think she's worth half a point each way, and I think that would be my only bet in this one because, yeah, Tolson was one for me. I mean, she was saying she couldn't breathe against Iga Swiatek, and beyond that, I don't really know what the issue was. And given her sort of record with illness and injury, I think it's probably one to avoid. And
she's going to find it hard to breathe in this weather.
Absolutely. And with Navarro, you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, she's usually quite consistent, but she just does throw in the odd shocker. And maybe Kessler is the answer in the bottom half. So I'm going to have a half point each way on Hailey Baptiste and hope for the best and hope that her local support can drag her over the line here. So that's Washington, D.C. We're going to move on to Prague. Now this one is a bit odd because last year it was played on clay, having been on hard court in the previous years. So we can pretty much disregard last year's tournament, which was won by Magda Linette, who's in Washington this week. I think that might have been the last winner I tipped on this show. God, it feels like a long time. But looking at previous winners before 2024, Simona Halep beat Elise Mertens in 2020. Barbara Krejcikova defeated fellow Czech Teresa Martincova in 2021 and dropped just 2 games in the process. It was a similar story in 2022. Marie Bauskova, another Czech winner, beating Anastasia Potapova, dropping just 3 games. And last year, it was a real shock. 2023 was a real shock because now Hibino, the Japanese player, beat Linda Noskova, another Czech, for the loss of just 5 games. Now, court conditions, even when it was on hard court in 2023, it played really slow. According to my records, the service hold percentage was just 57.2, which would be slow even by clay court standards. There's going to be some weather disruption. Monday looks a washout. Tuesday and Wednesday look okay, mid-20s Celsius, high 70s Fahrenheit. But then we've got more rain forecast on Thursday and Friday, so there could be some backlogs. Now, if the quarterfinals go according to the seedings, last year's runner-up, Linda Noskova, who's the top seed. She'll face Elena Gabriela Rusa. Jinyu Wang will play Alicia Parks. Marie Bauskova, former winner, she'll play Anne Lee, who's the seeded 9, and she comes into the tournament with Diana Yastremska, a late withdrawal. And Elena Avanesian will face second seed Rebecca Sramkova. Nigel, any early thoughts on this tournament before we look at the betting?
Yeah, it's been going for 10 years, 10 years of this tournament. If we look at number 1 seed has won it twice. Halep won it in 2020. Pliskova won it in 2015. They're the number 1 seeds who's won it. 3 unseeded players have won this tournament in 10 years. Not as high as the record as it is in Washington. And Czech winners, 3 of the 10 winners have been Czech players. Do you know the players? Czech winners? I've given you one already.
Krejcikova and...
Oh, actually, four of them.
Krejcikova, Bauskova, you've said Pliskova. Rukova won it at some point?
Kvitova, Pliskova.
Kvitova, there you go.
Kvitova, there's 4. So, yeah, 4 winners in 10 years. So, Czech players have done well in this tournament. There is a tournament pretty much like the one in Romania. We just picked the wrong Romanian girl. You like looks of things. 3 of the 4 finalists in Romania this week are Romanian, and it's got that kind of feel that Czech players will do well in this tournament again. Looking at the draw, I mean, there's no buys, obviously, so there's no one really got a big advantage, but it's not the best of tournaments. And looking at the draw, I think the easiest section is obviously the bottom half, because it's away from the one player I think is a standout in the tournament, and that is the number 1 seed, Linda Noskova. But if you're looking for an each way bet, or you're looking for some value, trying to get someone at a big price, I think you've got to be concentrating in the bottom half of the draw.
Let's have a look at those odds. And these odds were out with Diana Yastremska in the betting. And as I say, since these odds were published, she's pulled out of the tournament. So you got Noskova as a plus 350 favourite. Jinyu Wang at $9, Katerina Siniakova $10, Marie Bauskova $10 as well, Elena Gabriela Rusa $11, Teresa Valentova $12, the young Czech, Rebecca Sramkova $14, Anne Lee and Elena Evanasian are both $18, Elisabetta Cocciaretto, Victoria Tomova $20, and it's $25 bar those. I agree, Nigel. It's quite hard to look past Noskova just based on ability, form, all of those things. Top half, as you say, though, slightly more difficult than the bottom, but probably because Noshkova's in it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these players here are sort of journey women and players who aren't going to be pushing or going deep in any of the tournaments in the next few weeks or months. And you've got some young up-and-coming players. Very interesting to see Teresa Valentinov over. She's only 18, but there's a lot of things. 16, I think. 16? She's a teenager. She's a Czech teenager. I think she's only young. But I've heard a lot of good things about her, and she could be definitely one to keep on side in a match bet. In round 2, she could play Sramkova, and she could give her a battle. But it's very hard to look away from Noskova. I mean, she is playing the best tennis of her career. She's only 20. I mean, this she seems like she's been around for a long, long time, but she's only 20. And she's moving up in the world quite quickly. I think she's up to about 22, 23 in the world rankings currently, which is by far better than anybody else in this tournament. She's got up 4 places since Wimbledon, where she had a really good run. She reached the last 16, which she should have beaten Anisimova, actually. She went really toe-to-toe for some big wins there. She got beat by Jessica Pegula in the Bad Homburg tournament, where Pegula went on to win that tournament. She got to the quarterfinals in Nottingham. So she's really had a good grass court campaign. Her hard court season's been pretty good. She's only got beaten by players that are she would expect to lose to, and she's gone favourite. I mean, she got beat by Towson in Dubai in the quarterfinals. She got beat by Iga Swiatek in Doha. She got beat by Ashton Kruger in the semi-finals in Abu Dhabi. She's got beat Mira Andreeva in Brisbane. So she's lost against players that you would expect her to lose. It's very rare that she gets beaten when she's been a heavy price favourite. And she'll be a pretty much heavy price favourite in every match she plays here. She should play Cocciaretto in the last 16. She should beat her. Siniakova will play Gabriela Rusa. I think that's a tricky one. I think Siniakova can edge that. It could be Noskova Siniakova. You would expect her to win that. I think her route to the semi-final is pretty easy. Then in Q3, it's really poor. Wang, Alicia Parks, sorry. I wouldn't deal having any troubles against those two. And then in the final, it's whoever you want to come through that bottom half of the draw, which could be many people. Bauskova, Anne Lee, Annie Afanesian, I keep getting her name wrong. She's having a terrible, terrible season. I mean, she was awful last week in Romania. Bondar's reached the semi-finals in Hamburg, so she's not going to probably want to go too deep here. I think it's an opportunity for Teresa Valentinov to show her class. Shramkova's flaky. I mean, to me, she looks a proper good thing. If you look at her record in this tournament, it's exceptional. Got to the semi-finals last year, got to the final the year before that, the semi-finals the year before that. You've got to remember, she was only 17 when she got to her first semi, 18, 19. Now at 20, inside the top 23, number 23 in the world rankings, and moving up. It's a weak tournament, and I think plus 350. I don't think there's any question that she's going to be absolutely motivated for it, being a home event. And she's had a great success here as a youngster, and I think she can go one better than what she's done. Not the most original tip in the world, but look at that field. I think plus 350 is a big price. I'm going to have 2 points win only on Linda Noskova. Really like Linda Noskova this week.
Yeah, hard to disagree with you there. It's funny because there were two players I had my eye on, and they're going to meet in round two probably, because Cocciaretto, I mean, she had a good run at Wimbledon. She stunned Jessica Pegula in round one. And then she won the Båstad Challenger in Sweden on clay. And it just feels like things have clicked for her. I think she's a very dangerous opponent for anyone at the moment. I'm not worried too much about her being back on hardcourt. And especially if it does play slow, I think she could give Noskova something to think about.
It probably will play slow because the weather, you said that I didn't really go in the weather forecast.
Cool.
The weather forecast was absolutely dreadful. I mean, especially later in the week. I mean, it's going to be unsettled weather all the way through, but later in the week, Thursday, Friday, it's torrential rain, thunderstorms. I don't know how they're going to probably struggle to get through this tournament. So it could come down to sort of back-to-back matches and fitness, and obviously Noskova being 20 is she's got no problems with that. So it might be a bit of a nightmare for scheduling in Prague.
Yeah, it might. I think I am tempted to have half a point each way on Cocciaretto at $20, just because, you know, if it does come up slow, which it is likely to, she could, and she's in such good form, she could give Noskova something to think about. In the bottom half, I think Bauskova has obvious credentials: home player, former winner. She hasn't been in the greatest of form, but she did give Arina Sabalenka something to think about at Wimbledon. I mean, that's not unusual. We mentioned in Washington, she beat her last year in the semi-finals. But that bottom half looks really weak to me. I have to confess, I haven't seen any of Teresa Valentova or heard much about her. But that bottom half wouldn't take a lot of winning. Sramkova, to me, it looked like a two-horse race between Bauskova and Sramkova. But I'll go for Bauskova. And again, I'll have a half point each way.
Now, this Teresa Valentova, she's 18. She's actually in the final of the Porto WTA today on a hard court. She's in the final today. She won the tournament in Grado. She got to the second round of the French Open. She got beat by Coco Gauff. She come through qualifying. But she's
okay. I could see her then. She lost to Gauff.
She's a decent player. She's already got to 5 finals this year, and she's one of these players who's going to make a breakthrough to the main tour. She's just she's a good run here. We'll see her going to the top 100, and I've got a feeling she could shock Shramkova if they play.
So there you go. So that's Prague. Yeah, an interesting tournament. I think there, as you say, there's a standout player in the draw. It's just whether she can deliver or not. But obviously, Linda Noskova being a home favourite does help. As we see, Czech players do have a good record in Prague. Let's run through the bets again. Washington, D.C., Nigel.
I'm just going to go for 1 point each way, McCartney Kessler at 18-1.
And I'm going to have half a point each way on Hailey Baptiste at $50. And then Prague, you're all over the favourite.
Yeah, I mean, Cocciaretta's an interesting proposition, but if you're going to bet her, then I think whoever wins that match should make the final. And I just think Noskova's record is too good in this tournament. She's played the top level tennis. She's a standout player. and at plus 350. If you compare the plus 350 Noskova to win this tournament or plus $3 Rybakina to win the tournament in Washington, I mean, there's no comparison in the two. So I'm going to go straight in. 2 points win, Linda Noskova to win her home tournament. Semi-finalist last year, finalist year before, semi-finalist year before that. Excellent record. The informed player playing at a top level of tennis at the moment. At her career highest in the rankings, I think she'll lead the Czech hopes and win her home tournament.
So that's Noskova plus 350, 2 point win for Nigel. I'm going to have a half a point each way on Elisabetta Cocciaretto at $20, who will probably play Noskova in round 2. And in the bottom half, I'm going to have half a point each way on former winner Marie Balskova. That is it for this week. Betting Weekly WTA. Give us your thoughts. Put your comments below the line on YouTube. Tell us who you think will win the tournaments in Washington and Prague. And a reminder, if you've liked what you've heard on this show and you like what you hear on our other shows, sign up for our newsletter. Get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. You can sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. That's it for the WTA. Nigel, you've got the old ATP with Sean.
Yeah, waiting for the odds to come out for the ATP Tour in Washington. Sean is actually off to Umag. As we'll be able to follow him over in Umag in Croatia. Because we're on the social pages, but I'm here in not a very wet and dreary London. Horrible today. Horrible all week, actually.
Yeah, but hopefully the weather improves. It's actually been blessedly cool here in Madrid. I say blessedly cool, it's still about 32 degrees or 31, but we were 37, 38 last week. So it's helped a lot because, as you might notice, I'm in different surroundings. I've moved, so... yeah, wouldn't have fancied doing that in 38 degrees. But hope you've enjoyed the show. Good luck with your bets. Hopefully we can cash some tickets this week and join us again next week ahead of the big 1000 in Montreal. Probably be a Saturday because the tournament starts on Sunday. So make sure you join us again for some more Betting Weekly WTA.